Hello, beautiful Sarah.
Hello, beautiful being.
Welcome. It's
Thank
Sarah
you.
Songbird, Sarah Fish Leader, beautiful, darling woman.
Mm.
I welcome you to this space. I welcome you to sit here with me and converse and dialogue and feel and flow, all of you. And so let's just go, yeah? You want to say anything right off the bat, or you want to just you want to go? Let's go. Let's do it. All right, so I'm feeling really curious. I feel like last time we hung out, you were talking about that it was challenging to be raising a young man, a boy, on your own and raising him into manhood. And you being a woman and a single mom and feeling like there's maybe challenges or unknowns, but also maybe some weight or responsibility there. I'm curious, like, what are the maybe most alive or kind of juiciest, if there's like fear, if there's like what's in there for you?
The first and biggest thing that's real that I think all moms and all people, like our deepest thing that we have is like, am I enough? Am I doing enough? Am I being enough? Am I good enough? Am I a good enough mom? That's my deepest fear with my son is like, am I teaching him all of the different things that I want him to know and to grow to be as a man in a world that really needs good men, really needs healthy masculine? Like, am I giving him the tools to do things differently than they've been done before? Am I opening his eyes to different forms of thinking about everything, about society, about gender, about consciousness, about spirituality, about kindness? Like, there's such a huge plethora of things that are important to me and beyond just like tying your shoes and following my directions. Like, I feel like
Is there anything in particular you feel is like really important to you recently to teach him or to shift?
around like stewarding the earth, that feels really important to me. And like, and one of the things I notice, another thing that's important that I notice that I don't see in him often, which triggers my anxiety around like, am I being a good enough mom, is around like generosity and like selfishness. And so I can see him at times like acting in ways where I'm like, that's just rude and selfish. And that's like, am I like totally failing at being a mom because my kid is behaving in these certain ways where he's acting like he's better than other people? And that's, he's very competitive. He's very alpha, a lot of like strong male energy, like the masculine, feminine spectrum. Like, he's got a lot of that masculine, and so it can come out also with this like alpha side that can feel very, very competitive. And then it can sometimes seem like it feels like he's not being thoughtful of other people and how his actions impact other people. And that's really important to me, that he knows that, like, he knows how he's potentially harming people with his words or his actions, and that he make different choices that are kind. And so kindness is like a big thing that's important to me that I sometimes don't see, like, that I feel fearful that I have somehow failed at teaching him kindness.
Got it.
Where like, is there anything more essential that I can possibly think of in life than to be kind to people, to be kind to our friends and strangers and people in our lives?
Yeah. Do you find in your life, like recently in the last week or two, or has there been anything that's come up where you felt stuff that feels unkind inside of you?
Oh, for sure.
Like what are your colors that come up
If I
that's
can
like,
pinpoint like a specific moment where I was being unkind.
yeah, yeah. Like what does that feel like? Or
I mean, I can get a little snappy, especially with my partner. There are times when like I can be really reactive as opposed to responding when I'm really triggered, and that can come out in like a tone that feels unkind, or just with my own boy when I'm feeling frustrated and triggered, and there's like a certain tone of voice that can come out where it's like it's not kind, and it can sound rude, and it's got all that same coloration of the things that I, in his way as an 8-year-old boy comes out in a certain way. And then me as like mom, it's like, I call it like mean mom. I'll have to go back and apologize and be like, I'm sorry, mean mom came out. And sometimes there's mean mom. So yeah, it mostly would come out like it's like a certain tone of voice, or like a lack of patience typically is how.
Have you been able to like catch yourself in it while doing it at all? Or is it always after?
I can catch myself in it at times, but I don't always like stop it. I might be like, oh, there comes mean mama. And I'm just like, that she's already on a roll.
Right.
But I'm like, I'm aware of her. I'm like, okay, we're going to have to do some repair later.
You have fire. Do you have fire in you? Like, you seem fiery.
I've got
Do you
some
have fire?
I've got some fire, but I'm not like, I'm not one of those people that knows everything about
I feel like for me, sometimes when I get going, like the mean mama or whatever, it feels like an inferno in me. Just like the fire gets lit and then it's on. Right? And
it's like insane inside of there.
Challenge. Yeah, really hard. It feels like
to
pull it back.
Myself.
Is that a technique or a tool that works for you?
Yeah.
You just
kind of hates it too, because he like wants me to like know how, like, he wants to be with me even when I'm like, I'm like, I need to go for a walk, and then he wants to follow me or whatever. So it can be, sometimes he lets me have my space, and it's always helpful for both of us when I can just like get out. And now now that he's like 8, I can just go take a walk around the block. But when you've got a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, you can't just be like, I'm going for a walk around the block. Don't burn the house up.
Yeah.
So it's a good, like, that's a benefit of the phase that we're in, that we can actually take safe space from each other more so than ever before.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's helpful.
Totally. So mean mama. Yeah. And so taking space. I mean, it gets that. I feel curious around like are there other things that have been up for you in this last month or so, just recently, where you're aware of yourself doing or being something that you don't want to be doing or being, like mean mama, but like other qualities too, like anything that you're working with right now that you're like aware of and you're trying to, be on more.
Yeah. Well, I'm really aware in my partnership how when I do get triggered and this side of me can come out that's like I said, very reactive. And I can find at times in retrospect when I'm reflecting, I even notice it kind of happening as it's happening, but I, again, like can't seem to really stop it. And the more that I'm naming it, the more I think I'm building capacity to shift this way of being, where something happens and I'm really upset about it. And it's like I want him to know how upset I am, and I can feel myself like I'm a theater kid. Like I did musical theater for years. I have this, and then even beyond theater, I'm just, even before I did theater, I was dramatic. So like this dramatic one can come out, and she's like over the top, and I like want to like make myself cry when I'm not naturally crying. And I just like want to like, I want him to like know like the extent of what it feels like even inside, even though maybe it's not naturally occurring. The response wouldn't naturally occur in a particular way. It can be a little like over the top. And that's not obviously helpful at all. It's like resolves nothing.
Right. And it feels like, though, to me, when you were saying it, it was like, maybe like help a little bit, like help, I'm really feeling this. Like what do you think you want or need?
I just want him to feel the impact.
Okay. And so it's like you over dramatize because you're like, impact. It's really
like the impact is huge.
Yeah. Okay. So you're noticing yourself doing this, and can you catch it? Can you stop it when you're doing it? Can you?
I feel that I'm building capacity too.
Okay.
Got it. But I don't think, and I haven't stopped it fully yet.
Totally.
But I'm starting to notice it more. I just named it really for the first time.
Got it.
a week ago.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's a thing I'm doing.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then we haven't had like a big blowout since. So we'll see what happens next time we have, have some conflict,
When you've named something in the past and you're like, oh, I think I want to shift that, right? Mm-hmm. And then you bring awareness, consciousness. Have you had good successes in the past?
Yeah. Naming is very powerful. Mm-hmm. I mean, just changes the way that we hold it in our consciousness. So totally. I don't have like a specific example of a behavior that I didn't like that I named and was able to transform. I did do a lot of work on self-love in the last couple of years, been like like a really main focus of mine to like discover what does it mean to love myself, because people were always talking about self-love and like doing the work. And I was like, what does that mean? Yeah. What does that mean to love yourself? And so I've been on this journey to discover what does that mean to love myself. And the first thing that I did was to start to just name all of the ways that I already love myself and like all the things I already do that are loving towards myself. And in that naming, I started to discover what self-love is before I needed to like accumulate new practices. Like, well, I'm only self-loving if I like book a massage once a week, or like self-love means that I need to do this or do this or do this. But just in the naming of the ways that I was already caring for myself and being loving towards myself, I started to get the benefit.
Can you give me some examples of that? Like, what were you already doing that you could name?
Like, okay, random one, like putting on music in the car that would like make me cry when I really needed to cry. So loving. Sometimes it was eating chocolate late at night, like shifting things that I would normally be negative to myself about, and beginning to understand how actually there were just attempts to love myself, even if they were misguided attempts to love myself. What else was I initially discovering were ways that I love myself? I'm going to ecstatic dance, exercising, spending time with my friends, spending time alone, doing things in my garden, just like simple stuff that is already like day-to-day stuff that I do. That
feels really like revelatory in a way to be. I mean, I love that awareness or aha. I feel like that's a kind of a big aha, because I feel the same kind of sensation of like sometimes we think it's more exotic or like it's a grand gesture, right? If I'm going to self-love, it's going to be this grand. And sometimes grand gestures are maybe really awesome. And yet to be able to acknowledge that it's actually a through line, like through the daily life, through the daily routine, and you were already doing so much of it. That feels so huge. And then I feel like also then there's the acknowledgement or the witnessing that then in a way maybe makes it even that much fuller, takes it that much farther, that it's an acknowledgement that it's self-love. I'm loving myself. Oh my gosh. It's like, it feels that much more maybe giving or generative or filling or nourishing in your system, because you're even acknowledging it as such, maybe.
Yeah. It makes it an experience of a blessing. Yeah. Because I'm already doing all these things all the time. If I don't name it, I don't get the blessing of the experience of the love, the feeling of love. And as soon as I started naming it, I started to get the blessing every time. And it's like, if I'm on a mission, I called it a self-love detective. So when I was on a mission to like discover how I already love myself and became a detective of it, I started taking notes and, jotting down when I was doing something loving for myself or doing normal things I always did, naming them self-love. I actually was creating like new pathways in my brain, and I was setting myself up to have success from the very, very beginning. Because it's like, when you make a checklist, do you ever do this where you have something that you need to do that day and then you do it and then you write it on your checklist and then you check it off?
I don't think I ever have.
You've never done that? Where you're like, oh no, I had to do that. And I already did it. So I'm going to write it down and I'm going to check it off. But I already did it, but it just feels good. Like every time we check something off of our list, we get a little burst of dopamine.
Okay.
And so it's like a perpetuating system within our
Do
bodies.
all of us get the dopamine?
All of us.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe mine's like a little bit. I get dopamine like by petting the cat. I don't know. I don't feel it as much. It's more just like...
It's like a little burst.
Okay, little burst.
It's a little burst when you complete something that you set out to complete.
Makes sense.
So you are completing something you set out to complete day after day after day, and all day long. My task is to love myself, and then it's stuff I'm already doing. It's like that thing where you're like writing it down and checking it off, even though you already did it, but you get the blessing of it.
Totally. Do you have a sense of, if you could imagine yourself in your least self-loving, right? Like, so maybe in the past, or maybe it's like worse than you've ever even been to yourself, thank goodness. And then you could imagine maybe what it might be like in the absolute fullest expression of your self-love, right? It's just like only love all the time. You're just love, right? Do you have a feeling of where you're at on that journey?
I mean, probably somewhere in the middle still.
Yeah. Maybe like half the time feeling not fully self-loving and half the time feeling more. So I don't know. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
That's like, I've never even thought or asked that question before. To me, I had a sensation, because I think part of what I'm feeling that question is my sensation recently is this feeling of, I feel like I'm over half. Just a feeling in me where it's like, I feel like over half the time, or over half of me feels loved. Like maybe even 75% or 80%, right? There's still a chunk that I'm like, yeah, that doesn't feel super loving or self-loving, or right. And I can tell that I'm not self-loving when I'm also not being loving with the outside world, right? That inner outer reflection and mirroring too. And yet I'm having the sensation more and more. We're like, whoa, I'm feeling it way more of the time than I ever did before, right? Because before I was feeling way more like, self-berating or lack, like I'm lacking or something's wrong, or I had that sensation more often. So I think that was what I was just curious about. If you have a, feeling of like, oh my gosh, it's been feeling like so much more of the time, or I was just curious.
I had a really solid run where I was like, oh, I'm killing it. I'm like loving myself more than ever. And honestly, right now, I feel like I've come like slightly, a little bit down, like from that peak where I still like my baseline is higher than it was, much higher than it was before I began like the conscious journey to discover what it means to love myself. And then I went through some pretty insane relationship turmoil. And during that time, I actually loved myself better than ever have in my life. And that was when I was really, really doing the work to like show up for myself in the midst of like a lot of grief and a lot of pain and discomfort. And then things kind of like cooled out a little bit.
When was that? How long ago was that?
Like during this past year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Around February. So I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago now.
Okay. Got it. Yeah.
But it went on.
Months, probably.
Went on for months.
Okay.
It went on for months. Yeah. And then I came up for air, and like, and amazingly, what I feel is true is that I was actually kindest and most loving to myself when I was in my deepest pain. And then as things kind of like chilled out a little bit, like, I don't know, I got a little bit more like loosey-goosey, I think, with some of the stuff, the practices and the ways I was showing up for myself. And now what I'm really intent on learning is I was really good at loving myself when I was like alone. I mean, I was kind of involved in the drama, but I was like sovereign and alone in my relationship with myself, really. And was getting really strong in developing and being consistent with my practices that were self-loving, that I did add on to the things I already do day to day, like brushing my teeth, which I started calling self-love too. And now that I'm in partnership again, it's been like, I feel like I'm back in school. Like, well, how do I show up for myself and love myself in partnership? And that's like a whole new school for me right now. How do I be sovereign, have my voice, and have time alone? Because I'm I'm a co-parenting mom, and I work, and I am a musician, and I have a partner, and how do I find time alone? And like, it's easy to prioritize time for me, time alone, when you're in the midst of a pandemic and like there's nothing to do out in the world.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're single. And now, like, as things open up and there's so many more choice point moments, and I find myself pretty consistently choosing to be with my guy, which is wonderful, but it's also not leaving me some of the space that is actually necessary for me to be continuing to cultivate the self-love and do the things that I know are self-loving.
Yeah.
Because I can get caught up in how good it feels to be together.
Totally.
Or I can get caught up in the drama and the conflict too.
Yeah. Yeah. I got curious when you were speaking about, well, a couple of things. I got wondering if there's a song or any music, and only if it feels like a big yes or it's super live. So feel into it. But I got curious if there was any music that came out of the pain place last year.
Oh, yeah.
Like those months of deep pain. I got really curious, like with the colors of that inside of you, what that feels like, the shape, the texture, like what came through you, right? And then also I got curious about the self-love, like if there was any of your journey of learning of the self-love, if there's any music that came through you with that.
Yeah. Absolutely. There was. I'm going to play you one that came out of like I actually started playing it for you earlier.
Okay.
Before we started.
Okay.
It's a real song.
The Rage one?
The Rage.
Oh, good. I like the snippet of that.
It's okay, you won't mind. Feel your rage. It's okay, you won't mind. Feel your rage. Let it burn, let it burn, let it burn, let it burn. Let it rise, 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 rise. Let it rise, 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 rise. Let it rise, let it rise, rise. Cause you cannot heal what you do not feel. Yeah, that's the truth, my loves. You cannot heal what you do not feel. You cannot heal what you do not feel. Yeah, that's the truth, my loves. You cannot heal what you do not feel. So let it rise, rise, rise. Let it rise, rise. Let it rise. Oh, I think that one came through in the Kalima moon too, like in the study of the moons and the archetypes associated with each of the moons. That was the Kalima moon, and she was fierce. Yeah.
You're feeling that one a lot, huh? When it came through.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like just found out some crazy information about lies and just like ridiculous lies that I was just like,
Did you let yourself feel your age?
oh yeah.
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 I mean, I wrote this song. I like made all the noises.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that whole period, like, I didn't even know, like, I could make those sounds. And that was part of the journey of self-love, was like discovering the depth of my feeling and giving voice and expression to like all of it in really going there. I got really consistent about collecting my blood and offering my blood every month. And it became like a really powerful ceremony for me, especially at this time. So it felt like I was releasing like over and over again, trying to release this craziness that was happening in my relations. And when I would be in that ritual space, like I was just allowing the feeling to just be in its absolute fullness. And that was like the most loving thing I've ever done for myself, was to allow myself to feel those feelings all the way through and make crazy, wild, primal sounds on my living room. Like people probably, if they would have heard me, they would have thought I was literally in labor.
You were birthing. You were birthing you.
I was.
You. Yeah.
Yeah. I went through a total birthing process and allowed myself to just like wail. Yeah. And I wrote a lot of music. Yeah. Like a lot.
Do you have that feeling when you like let it all the way through, that like sweet release? Yeah. When it's all the way through.
So cathartic.
It's so cathartic. It's like,
there's like this like space, like vibrating spaciousness after feeling it all the way through. That's so powerful.
Yeah. I feel like that was a piece that was so crucial for me, because I don't know that I'd ever heard that before. And yet I finally found it maybe like 8 years ago or something, that I was like, don't stop, right? Because it's sometimes it gets so intense that there's a natural like feeling of like, oh, like I'm afraid, or I constrict, and then it stop. And so, but I never felt the relief or the release, right? Whereas like it was like the trusting for it to come all the way through, whatever the feeling is, even if it's like something like joy or beauty, but the same rage or like deep fucking pain, or that like just to trust it all the way through, that there is an end to it, that our systems can actually process it, right? If it's moving, we can process it. And then if we can let it all the way through, there's this amazing release. There's this spaciousness, peace, like full presence, I feel like too. Once it's like, it's
like a tingly, for me, it's like this like tingly presence in the moment. It's like total peace in the system. And it's like, it's literally, it's a form of labor and delivery. You're like birthing out whatever is the next version of you. Totally. I was like, snake was really present in my life at that time too. Like I just kept seeing snakes everywhere, and people sent me pictures of snakes, and I saw a snake, and they just kept coming up. It was like shedding, where the snake, like you can't like stop shedding partway through. It's got to birth itself all the way out through that layer of skin to be in the fresh what's next. And that's what I was doing. And it was incredible. It was incredibly uncomfortable. Yeah. I don't think I've ever been so uncomfortable in my life, except for like when I birthed my own child or went through my divorce.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing? I find these like the most uncomfortable times and places inside of us and in our lives, how much they're a threshold or like a portal that if we really go through them fully, like with all of our aliveness and all of the expression and everything that comes with and through and because and for it and for us, that it really is an experience of like, ooh, it takes us somewhere else like we transport, like if we really go through it really fully, right? All the way. And yet the discomfort of it, like the softening, I find, and I'm curious, like in the super crunchy discomfort, uncomfortable place, what you find, have you found things that work for you? Like tool techniques?
Movement, sounding.
Like toning sound, like just
like,
raw, like sound. Okay.
Like
noise.
deep, like guttural, like labor pain sounds.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Crying.
Yeah.
Creating music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Expressing, creating, voicing.
Yeah. I have a song that I want to play.
Okay. Yes.
It reminds me of this process of birthing ourselves through to the new. We have to pass through a certain kind of death to get there. And so that's what the song is about. After the winter, the spring comes. Do not fear the falling of the leaves. Death makes way for the new life. Set it free and believe. Life, the new life, sprouts from the ashes. Life, the new life, comes once the winter passes. Yes, the birds will sing again, but we need the silence too. The old must fall away.
It's like the magic sparkle fairy just like
Yeah.
coming off of you and your guitar.
That's another thing that I discovered was spending a lot of time in nature to help me remember what's really true about life and existence and death and the compost and the ugliness and the blood and that's like all part of nature, and it all has its purpose, and the shedding of the skin and it's all part of the divine oneness that is life. And it's, there's always the spring after the winter. I was like, I was deep in the winter. I was like deep in the cold, deep in the, the pain, but like there's always cycles. You can't bypass winter to get to spring. You gotta walk day by day through the seasons of life. And I spent a lot of time in nature at that time also, and continue to learn from nature and find my peace there when I'm like really going through it. It can help just settle my nervous system.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense. Do you because we've done some women's work together, right? When our women's circle, and when you say those things, it reminds me of like the journey of really sinking into my woman body and my woman body into like the earth body. I mean, that's kind of because for me, nature often also helps me ground and settle in that way, where I can really feel the body connection and then the earth body connection. And it reminds me of also my practice that I've found of softening through the birth center and actually letting energy flow too. I'm curious for you what some of the practices that you've learned, like through women's circle or through your body or through nature, that have also just helped or have been pivotal for you.
Well, like I mentioned, working with my blood and my blood cycle, and learning to really track where I'm at in my cycle and honor where I'm at and take advantage of my creativity and my times when that's what's actually like happening within my own body system. And
can I pause for a second? I feel like that one's almost recent for me. That I track, where I'm like, whoa, sometimes like days or a couple of days or even half a day, it's just so naturally happening, right?
Yeah.
And other days, not hardly at all. And I feel like that was a recent aha for me. So I just wanted to say that's what you're saying, right? Just like being aware of, or are there parts of your cycle that you feel like you're aware you're naturally more creative, your body's?
When I'm ovulating,
okay,
I'm like super creative and juicy, and my energy is up, and I'm just like, it's just everything is yum. And then when I'm, called PMS, but when I'm leading up to my bleeding, I notice that like, I'm more I'm irritable, I'm edgy, I'm like mean mom is like running the show, and it helps me to be able to track and know like, well, why am I showing up this way? And how can I be compassionate to myself? What's happening for me at a hormonal level? How can I understand myself? So I'm not just mean momming and then like mean momming on myself for mean momming, but being more loving, compassionate towards my own self for what's happening hormonally, what's happening inside of my own system. And then like really taking advantage of my blood time to release whatever I am meant to be releasing at that time. And, have like a blood altar at the base of the redwood tree in my yard. And I offer my blood there, and I offer flowers and sage. And it's become like this whole beautiful connection that I have with this redwood tree actually has been developed. And I just think of her as like this guardian, and I feel like I'm feeding her. And, like when I look to nature, like I sing in my song to guide us, it's like, I know that whatever I'm offering of my own pain and my own like, is compostable. Like it's actually an offering, and the earth can receive it and actually turn it into something beautiful. And I don't have to like get rid of it. Like so much of our relationship that we've been taught with blood is to like, as women, to like hide it and get rid of it and like put it down the toilet where we put our poop and not treat it like it's, sacred at all. And so that's been like huge in my life to just start to relate to my own blood as sacred and as an offering, and like to be able to use that time to like really discover what it is that I need to release and let go of. And I mean, often it's the same thing every month that I'm letting go of. Like, it's not like a one time and you're done, like you're saved kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I can like ride the current of the energy that's moving through my own system.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, I'm also in this study with the moons, the cycles of the moon. There's the 13 moons of the year with Dana Schlick, who's learning it that way. And that's been really helpful for me too, to be in understanding of what are like the larger energies that I'm working with at this time. What and how is that showing up through me? The light, the shadow, how am I embodying that? Or what am I desiring to call in and to embody? Or what am I seeing in other people embodying these shadow qualities or these light qualities? And just that consciousness, awareness allows me to have like more compassion for myself, for others, and what else do I do?
Yeah,
relate with the earth, and
practices.
a lot of earthing, just like getting my feet on Big Mama and just connecting with her. Also, in my time of like deep turmoil and pain, I discovered like how incredibly powerful it is to hug trees. Like, it's not just like tree huggers, hippie, like there is an incredible receptivity that like when I needed to be held and there was no one else to hold me, and I could go to a redwood tree and just like feels like it's alive. Like, I developed a new kind of relationship with nature through my pain also. And so like I like to spend my time barefoot on the earth, and I like to hug trees, not just for like, a selfie with a tree. Like, I'm like, I want to feel that tree, and I can feel it holding whatever I'm holding with me. It feels like it's hugging me back and like holding me back with its energy and holding space with me. So that's something I do.
I love it. I love it. With the women's work, what do you feel is maybe the most potent or important pieces that you and with sisters that like we or you are working with at this time, right? As women on this planet in these bodies at this time.
Well, I think one of the big things that we're working with when we come together is healing the sisterhood wound. Is like a primary thing. It's a big thing that's happened for me as I've been consistent in circling with women, and often with the same women, and often with women who I put on some pedestal or I thought was better than me or had some judgment about. And one of the premises of the group that we are a part of, that I'm a part of, is that there's no way not to belong to this circle. And as you were talking before we started here about like, what is your deepest wound? And for me, rejection is my deepest wound, particularly with girls, women, but primary rejection was with girls, as a young girl being rejected. So I can't say what the most important work is for everyone with women's work, but I feel that for me at least, and I think for a lot of us, and I hear women speak this all the time in circle, that it's deeply healing for that sisterhood wound, that girl to girl woundings. Girls, as we know, harm each other at a young age in very particular kinds of ways that can be deeply wounding. And so coming together with women where all of us is welcome, where our shadow is just as important and honored as our light, where we are queens amongst queens. Like, you're being bright and shining and powerful doesn't make me less bright and shining and powerful. And you can be a queen within your own right, and I can be a queen in my own right, and we can all feel like we belong. We can all know that we belong, and there's no way to not belong as a part of this tribe. It's just deeply healing for me. And I think it's a big universal wound for girls and for women.
I agree.
You know, that catty little thing that girls do. And we don't mean to like, create these wounds that are going to last us into adulthood. We don't know what we're doing as little girls, but like it's deep. And then I see how that shows up in all my relations, the rejection wound, particularly, in relation with men too. Like it's in there, that rejection wound, the fear of rejection, the having been rejected primarily by girls in the first place, but it shows up everywhere because it's a core wound. So I think it's power, the work that we do when we come together and when we decide that we all belong and we're all part of this as equals, it's deeply healing for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes such perfect sense. And I agree completely. I mean, I feel like I've heard that so many times with women. I know it for myself 100% that, and I've heard that in women's circles a lot because I've sat in a bunch of different ones that is absolutely one of the first and kind of deepest ones that we're like immediately there's like, wait, can I trust this like woman or this girl sitting next to, right? Because we spent so much of our life not trusting, feeling all these other feelings of
comparing.
Comparison, competitiveness. It's like our culture, right? And translating into these really important relationships I totally agree with you, heal right off the bat. One thing you said in that is really important and I am curious about as a theme through this series is sovereignty, right? You said queen, like powerful and bright and shining, right? And it doesn't diminish me, right? It's like I get to be exactly that myself. I think that's a little bit of my own words there. And so I'm curious for you, this journey of sovereignty, right? What that is for you, how you're feeling it, where you feel like might be edges to grow into it even more.
Well, I can start with where I feel like there's the edgy, where there's growth needed or desiring to come through, because that's what feels really alive for me right now is actually, like I said, like in my self-love journey, there've been these peaks and now, and same with my sovereignty. Like there are times when I've felt like superpower and sovereign, and right now I'm feeling a little bit challenged in my sovereignty. Particularly related to my music, because I can find myself being in a lot of comparison and a lot of fear and a lot of unknown. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how this industry works. Like, am I a musician? Like, what am I? Like, I'm not fully claiming it yet. Like, I'm trying to catch up to what is being created for me by spirit. Like, I'm being offered all these opportunities to share myself and my music. I'm not asking for them. They're just happening. And I'm like trying to catch up and trying to believe that I'm like good enough to do all these things. And so I feel challenged in actually feeling like, yeah, I got this. Like I'm choosing this. Like someone asked me the other day, like, when did you decide to become a musician? And I'm like, well, I didn't decide to become a musician. Music started to chase after me and choose me. And so I feel challenged to like feel like I know what I'm doing in that world. And, I feel like I need to ask for a lot of help or a lot of advice. And I feel like other people's opinions about my music or how a song should be or anything about my music like holds more weight in some ways than my own. And so I'm like learning. Well, first I'm just now like really becoming aware, like as much as I can, becoming aware of where is it that I'm leaking my power with my music? Like where am I allowing others' voices and ideas and opinions about my music to be more important than my own? Where am I not creating space to even discover what I think about my own music or what direction I want to take and what steps I need to take in order to make it happen if that's what I want if that's what I want to happen, and
I love all that. And keep that thread going. I'm just acknowledging or witnessing that because I feel like there's some important pieces there, whether it's about music or it's about relationship with a partner, or it's a relation, like whatever it is, the pieces I felt like I was really picking up on. I was like, so what doesn't feel like sovereignty, right? Leaking power, not being in choice, like outside things feeling more important or powerful or something, right? Than what's in here. I saw you do like this a few times, which is like sort of like what we do in Women's Circle, right? But it's like that landing in self and that like living in self and self, the space in here. I'm putting a little of my own words, but that's what I was feeling when you were doing that. Because I'm getting curious about that felt, because I'm hearing pretty clearly, I feel like what's not feeling sovereign. And so wondering what it feels like when you are in your sovereignty, right? Like what might it feel like when you're in your sovereignty with the music?
Well, like after a show, for example, like after I share myself and I feel myself taking up my space and being in my power and giving the people an experience through my voice and my sharing and my words and my shared feeling, I can feel myself. It's like leading up to it or something else. But we're talking about when I do feel sovereign. So in the aftershock often, or even in the moment, like when I'm in the moment of sharing my music, or I'm in the moment afterwards when I'm complete with having given some kind of shared in some kind of a way, and I can feel the reception of others, or even just my own, like filling my own self up, with my music. I feel like that. Like I feel expanded, I feel expansive, I feel powerful, I feel in alignment with my own path. I feel sure of that. I feel, I feel this way. I feel like I feel centered. I feel clear. I feel strong. And I feel like there's the self-doubt is like, it's like down there, it's not all like, it's like down on the ground. And I'm like, I have compassion for you. But like, that's not what's really, really, really real. Like what's real is like, I have gifts to offer and they're important and people want them and I can give them. And that's the sovereign part. It's like nobody else can give, like I am in control of my gifts. Nobody else can give my gifts for me. Only I can do that. And so when I do that, I can feel myself and I can feel my gifts and I can feel just the importance of getting out of my own way so that I can be a blessing to others.
Choice and power and ownership of self and filling yourself and expanding. I just was feeling all that and feeling that and hearing those words too. And I feel like it's just helpful to name that and feel it. And it's so beautiful. I felt like I got to witness the physical, too, right? Because right. But like when you were talking about like where the edge is and where you're not feeling, right. And it's like, and it's the smaller and it's the kind of like concave. And then I love how you're describing leaking power, because it's true. Like if we're leaking our power, then everything is almost deflated. Right. And then you also were doing this, like the monkey mind, I'm sure, right. It's like that, like, but what about, right. And yet, and what I heard and felt was like when it's moving through you, like your song and your music and your gift, you that are the gift that also shows up as song, right? When that's moving through you and you're allowing it to really fill you. And then when it is filling you and then you're offering it, then it's like everything opened, your heart opened and your energy and your presence and your light. And then you're like, wow, right? It's like, it was all right there. It was a beautiful witnessing.
Thank you for inviting me into that feeling. That felt good.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the combination of your gift and it's you and it's only you that can offer that gift. And that is part of your sovereignty too. Like knowing the value of that and then being able to really just give that, be that is that, like it's you, that's it. So I want to just maybe ask if there's anything else that feels really alive for you these days. Anything else you'd want to share that feels extra alive, rich, present, juicy, anything?
The music is what feels most alive for me right now. Just feeling the thread and feeling when we're on our paths, how the doors just open right up for us. And, there's some, like all that monkey mind stuff can come up and come through, but like the evidence is there that this is what I'm meant to be doing. The evidence is there. The people are calling me, asking me to sing. The people are calling me, asking me to come and talk and play a song or whatever it is. Like, it's coming to me. And so that feels really juicy and alive for me right now, is that I'm actually discovering that I can actually make money with my passion, with what I love. And I am making money doing it. And that's really extremely exciting for me right now. What feels most alive is that I can offer what I love the most and what fills me up and where I feel most powerful and sovereign and where I feel like the most blessing and gift to others. And I can also give and receive in that space. And that feels really exciting. I feel like so many things, so many doors opening for me in that realm right now. And I'm really desiring to continue to stay in this place of remembering my own power, my own sovereignty within that walk. And I do feel that it's going to continue to strengthen. Like, it is strengthening, and, I'm catching up to the path that's being laid out for me, and staying more upright on my feet, not just running, trying to my feet trying to catch up to the rest of my body, but taking more elegant strides in that realm. And feels really juicy and really exciting, really, really just expansive right now. So I just can't wait to see what's next in that world for me, and hope that it continues to ripple out. And that's my biggest desire, is that that it finds its own feet, so that the music can do its work in the world that it's come to do through me. Yeah.
Amen. Amen. Do you want to share one more song with us?
Yeah.
What might it be? Anything that feels super, which
and so it is. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a prayer sealer song.
Oh, okay.
It feels really good to do that one right now.
Okay.
I received this song when I was actually at a camp out last summer. I started to receive this song at a camp out with women for the women's circle that we're part of, in the middle of this beautiful river, in holding hands with these two other women. It's so beautiful. We're standing in the river, and we were calling in all the qualities that we wanted to call in of juicy yumminess. And then this song came through. Called My Prayer Sealer. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is, and so it is, and so it shall be, and so it shall be, and so it shall be, for you and me. And I release all expectations of what will be. And I release all so it is, and so it is, and so it is, and so it is, and so it shall be, and so it shall be, and so it shall be, for you and me. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is, and so it is, and so it shall be, and so it shall be, and so it shall be, for you and me.
Amen, amen, amen.
Thank you for having me here.